Hello everybody, so um, this is a kind of a fitting time. So as people already know, there will be Pluto in Aquarius, fully back into Aquarius. And just a kind of a heads up, if you hear a bunch of recording like sounds in the background, I think that's also fitting because of the chaos that's been happening and people who are either elevating, or when I say elevating, I mean really developing a consciousness and awareness of what is. And I'm not here to resist here. I'm not here to resist anything, or at least I'm learning not to. And that's one of the things that get triggered. I get triggered a lot by, and that's one of the things we're headed towards. And one of the shifts that's been happening is this Pluto that's going into Aquarius, and we're already feeling the energy. We're really feeling it's kind of very heavy, very kind of like a real like a detox, especially for like I would say that also includes the skin people who are going through, because that's in Capricorn right now. So there's a lot of detox happening. It's in the critical degrees of a Capricorn, so that means it's really strong. It's really like a purging of systems, purging of things, purging of the old ways, old systems, old beliefs, all that stuff. Um, but it's also like a purging of things in the body. Like I myself, like like last week, I was feeling like very, like something with the stomach. Um, and I believe that's because it was it's something to do with, it's transiting my sixth house. So I feel like there's a lot of like issues with not only the skin, the knees, but there's something else there. Because I believe that with the placement in my charts with Capricorn there, Spartacus is part of that. Um, there's something else, but I'm pretty sure it's in the charts. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about this thing that's going into Aquarius. It'll be approximately, actually, like they say, apparently midnight. I looked it up, and it's like actually midnight. So I'm going to share with you the screen in a bit here, but it's going to be exactly like 12 a.m. And this is, of course, UK time, like Greenwich, like Greenwich Mean Time, um, where Pluto will be entering Aquarius, like I guess permanently, meaning from now on. It's 0 degrees, exactly 0 degrees and zero minutes, 0 seconds. I literally calculated it. I was like, oh, interesting. But there will be other planets aspecting that, including Venus. Venus is a big one here. Um, is that actually Venus? No, it's not. No, it's not. Sorry, made a mistake there. Um, yeah, no, that's different. Okay, so yeah, so Pluto will be in 0 degrees, and there'll be other asteroids conjuncting that one. Because as many of you know, like I've been working with asteroids for a while now, for about a year or so, and I've gotten to work with a lot of asteroids. So one of the big ones is Heracles. So Heracles is all about Heracles is all about like pushing through and like having, like he had his 12 labors, right? But he's all about tenacity and strength and courage. And on the collective side, I believe this will give us the energy to have this power that Pluto has in there, which is about um, strength, but it's also about maybe there's a bit of irrationality there, like submission or dominance issues about that, challenges that we go through, hostility, so force and impositions. Maybe there may be drugging involved. It's possible because it is Pluto. Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth, transformation, regeneration. And that includes all that stuff, like war stuff that are being cleared out. Really, you'll start to feel it. It's like maybe people might feel empowered or disempowered, depending on where you are, depending on your experience. Um, it'll also include responsibility, knowing about responsibilities and making your own miracles and having this sort of, you know. But there'll also be like fated and miraculous births, because Heracles was technically as wanted as a child, but he was still like it was a miracle. So I also see child here conjunct that. So there's a lot of that energy that's coming through that is very different. It's going to change the world. Of course, it's going to move slowly, just like Pluto does. It also implies that we're moving also slowly, but also fast. And it'll be sudden changes because you have Uranus that rules Aquarius. There's also Pluto there, but Pluto at this time will still be in Pisces, I believe. Let me double check here. Yeah, it'll still be in Pisces. The last degree of no, it's in the mid degrees. It'll be in 12 degrees 43 minutes. So this will just the pull of Uranus will be stronger here because Uranus will be in the last degrees of Taurus, 25 degrees 7. It actually retrogrades, it pulled back. So as you know, Uranus won't be there for a while. Let's see here. I believe that Uranus is also conjunct a bunch of other planets too, but that's not for this right now. We're going to go into Pluto, focusing on Pluto right now. So there will be that pull. So Heracles, going back to that, there'll be issues about child, like corruptions, possibly, like because kind of like regeneration and like corruption from all that stuff, but also like something to do with children and disbelief and wars. Cassandra will be part of this equation as well. Cassandra is about visions. Cassandra is about disbelief, and also like rape is included in this one. When I say rape, I don't necessarily mean like actual rape, but yes, there will be like power struggles as well. Osiris will be there as well, along with Cronus and Isis. So there will be a lot of love and support, but there will also be like challenges. There will be like unforeseen things because of Cronus here. Cronus will be like, it's hidden. So it'll be like including like hidden or unwanted or kind of forsaken or like kind of unseen talents or abilities, or a lot of it is like division stuff. So going back into Hercules, I wanted to go back into it because it's also about takeovers. There's possibly like possible takeovers, invasions, interventions, something like not really new, right? People would see PTSD possibly coming up again from childhood ancestry, lineage, past, trauma. Adopted children would be coming out through here as well. Adoptions, children born out of wedlock, those kind of truths that are coming out. Right? Pluto will bring that out. Okay, possibly also including heteropaternal superfecundation, meaning like having two fathers, something like that. Twins will be part of this as well. People getting into drugs and abuse and intoxication. I'm not trying to be negative here, but this is what I'm seeing here. Domestic violence, homicides, crimes of passion, forms of labors, tribulations, assessments. A lot of anger stuff, but also a lot of like choices that we have to make towards developing tenacity and really staying our ground. But there will be a lot of that stuff. Fostering will be included in here as well. Okay, so a lot of strength, superhuman abilities possibly. Things of the 12, there's something about 12 here. Something 12, the number 12, if you get that, that'll be part of that as well. They'll also include things like truth that's coming out because it's in Aquarius. It's going to be coming out how we're cleaning our rivers, our ditches. There's also deserts and gardening. So there'll be kind of like a bit more death. So the pure funeral pyres will be included here. So we go into child. That's the one. So child is pretty much child. It's like anything to do with children, innocence, purity, but also that connectedness to source. And it's really consciousness. It's bringing about a change into the Aquarian age. That's angelic connection as well. Innocence, like I said. What else is there? There's something else about child here. I want to make sure I get it. As you know, because I work with asteroids, there's a lot of details that I put in here, like a lot. So as you mentioned earlier, you probably already saw that. Okay, let's see here. Child. I'm seeing Characlo. Like I said, because I have a huge list. This is my cheat sheet. I don't like memorizing things. I don't like, it doesn't work anymore for me. I'm just gonna go with the experience, and I find that that has actually helped me a lot. I want to go deeper into child because I want to make sure that I get not only get the right information, but based on what I've discovered. I mean, this isn't based on the myth, but this is child. So anything to do with children. We're not just talking about children. We're talking about like toddlers, babies, that kind of stuff. So anything to do with children could be like adoption, could be taking care of them, nurturing nature, being natural, being connected. That probably includes also diapers and other cleaning stuff, like really, really natural stuff, right? I'm going to go into Tyr here because I want to make sure that, because Tyr is the god of war in Norse mythology. So what that means is that yes, there'll be wars will be part of this whole thing, but it'll also include like discernment, courage, decisiveness. It's basically Tyr is not just war; it's where we put our energy in. It's very similar to Mars, where we put a lot of energies in, but it also includes like deities coming. I guess a return of, because it is right now. I believe that there is a trine to Sedna still. Yeah, with Pluto. Yeah, Sedna is going to be 0 degrees 40 minutes, but it's in retrograde. So in this case, it will be kind of the opposite. There'll be like small pockets of people going back into their own beliefs in the past, like the ancient times, especially like with deities. This also includes things like maybe pillars and towers. I don't know if that has to do with like rebuilding it or maybe breaking it down because it is tied to Pluto. It'll be a breaking down of like systems and support systems as before, that they're still there, or the opposite. It'll be bringing out the truth in that, because Aquarius is an air sign. So, but Aquarius is like sudden changes, so you never know exactly. So it's really just sudden change, like Uranus. But Aquarius is all about humanity. So whatever works towards humanity is the benefit of humanity, our elevation, our evolution. So things that might come back as well. Things that might this possibly also 900. 900 might be a number. I'm not sure. 9, because it'll head towards 9 is a sense of completion. That's for next year. 2025 is the year of completion. There might be things involved like animals, like wild animals might be part of this. Going back to the wild, I would say, because wild, when I say wild, I mean to nature, connection to Mother Gaia. So wild animals is part of this one. There'll also be reestablishment or truth coming out of rehabilitation, nourishment, sustenance, provision. So because of the wars, that'd be like people will start to help each other, and there will be a lot of helps, support, like AIDS in some sort of thing, like not AIDS the disease, but like aid, support. Okay, so resuscitation, restraints and constraints, straitjackets. So anything that has to do with constraints. Hunting will be part of this one. Investigations into the past, but also the investigations into what are these things, like why do we have these wars. It sounds a little subjective, but I'm just reading what is here. There will be like opposing forces, of course, that's part of the thing. Fights, battles, victories. Victories included here. Probably swords might be probably part of this one. Things that are hanging, things that are of support, like it's kind of like a support in a way that's like coming from the air. So I would imagine like air support. I don't know what regions of the world will get that, especially if they have like war-torn zones, old battles, old conflicts of the past. But that'll also come up and be like, what? I didn't know this. Okay, so a lot of things that you probably heard of. It also include like taking oaths, or like things that we've taken oaths before, promises or warrants, or things of sense of security, right? There will be also like collateral damage, meaning like bystanders, like people will be hurt. If not hurt, there'll just be damage. It could just be not necessarily physical, but it could just be like damage on an emotional and personal level. And there'll be like a resurrection because Osiris is included here. Okay. By the way, I forgot to mention insurance and investments companies will probably be involved in here. I wouldn't be surprised if like banks, of course, bailing people out of prison because that is tied to Pluto taxes as well because of the Scorpio energy. So Osiris is also part of this one. So Osiris is about resurrection and also kind of like filling in the missing pieces or putting things together. So of course death and all that stuff, but it's also about longevity. Sorry, longevity, but also division, deviation. So anything that kind of breaks apart and comes back together. That's really what it is. But it's also about replacements and on a more down to earth level. Osiris also represents castes, like things that you have to choose to kind of hold you in to repair you, like things like a cast or even like crutches or what do you call those? What do you call those? I wrote down here prosthetics. So that includes us. Prosthetics as substitutes, possibly also cloning. I'm not sure if cloning is still a thing, but that's include that as well. So I mentioned earlier there was also Hercules. No, there was Tyr. So it has to do with hands as well. There's something about hands and how we. I don't know if it's like working with our hands. I would say like because of Pluto there, it's like it's this breaking down of power, or so maybe misuse of power through our hands, through our arms. Also, I think our head is part of that, so our thoughts, because of the Aquarius placement, it's there. It's here, right? Insights as well. Sorry to say this, but this also probably includes more NDEs, like resurrection, like us knowing about like people coming out with their near-death experiences, possibly also reanimation, so resuscitation, reanimation, amputation. Sorry to say this, but dismemberment is also included. That's Osiris. Yeah, unknown information about hidden, like unknown deaths. It'll come to life, and you'll be like, why are there people not recorded? Who are these people, right? Especially with the children there, I believe there's something to do with. So we have here a square to Lamea, and Lamea is about kidnapping. There's something that I had with this group of mine where they talked about something was they were getting these insights and visions about child labor and trafficking, human trafficking. So Lamea is part of that whole abductions and kidnapping and killing of children, abuse of children. That'll come up for sure. There'll be like a struggle because it's like there'll be systems that'll just kind of like hold it in. They're like, no, it's gonna be revealing itself. The people will know more about it, even more. There'll also be people probably experiencing numbness and disconnection from the nerves, cysts. Yeah. What do you call this? So things are crumbling down, right? Rubbles and ruins, possibly going back to the past as well, the ancient times of what we might discover from ancient ruins. Spreading of knowledge now. This time is really spreading of knowledge, right? More teachers are coming up, restructuring, re-civilization, re-education. But also there'll be delays in this one because there'll be hesitation. Like there are people who will resist this, especially those in power, those in the old systems. They will resist the change, but it's inevitable. Change is inevitable, right? So, shedding of skin. I don't know if that's people with scabs or something like renewal, right? So, things of the old are starting to. Your new skin will start to develop. When I say new skin, I mean figuratively as well. And see here. Again, people might be punished for certain things. Punishment is part of this beating. There's also will be like betrayals. People might feel betrayed not only by the systems but also like brotherly systems, meaning like, you know, the big brother, those who take care of you, or those who kind of you look up to. There might be that as well. A lot of deviation, people going off track, unfocused, or the opposite. You can go either way. Okay, money, forfeits, and all that stuff. Confiscated items might be part of this as well. Separatism. Okay, deviance, rebellions, of course, natural. This is coming through. Abusive environments. That'll come to the forefront as well. Things that are lost and will be found. So missing persons. Now we also have Coronas, which is like, again, those little things that I mentioned before. Okay, so Coronas is the little things, unexplored talent, but also unexplored gifts and unexplored latent abilities. So this will come to the forefront. People will start to realize, oh, I have this ability. It doesn't have to be like all this kind of stuff. It could be the little things as well. Like, you know, you realize, oh, you're good at something. You start to re-own and feel empowered. Even if you feel disempowered, you will still feel powered. You have Heracles here as well as part of this. And people will be like, there's a lot of disbelief and a lot of like separation because of this disbelief, right? Because people will be like, what are you crazy? What do you do this? You're all woo woo. But there will be guidance. And we need to trust. You need to trust in that guidance in terms of like, because there will be what you call, you know the phrase when you heard divine retribution. Well, that's because that's what it is. It's not necessarily vengeance in the way that we think is vengeance. It's like re-owning, and that whole like, I'm not going to surrender to the disempowerment of belief someone else's beliefs taking over what I truly believe. It's going to be an internal approach. It's going to be re-empowerment, not just empowerment, re-empowerment, taking back the power. Right? It's not any of that stuff anymore. It's not the whole like, I'm gonna take over and kill the world. Me against the world, fuck it. No. It's not gonna be like that. At least we have the choice. We are given more of the choice. We will actually, come to terms with that and actually start to embrace that. Feel like people will start to realize, oh, no more separation. I mean, people are realizing that already, but this time there will be this combination. I mean, what I'm also just reading what's in the chart, so I'm pretty sure this is already, this is like this culmination of that stuff that's been happening for the past few years. So there will be schizophrenia, there will be madness, there will be all these things, but people will start to get clearer visions of things like sight, vision, premonition, channeling. It doesn't matter what it is. It's not about the label of it. It really is this. There'll be also refugees. They'll be included in here, sanctuaries. Okay. Like that whole crazy prophets on the street. There'll be more. Mad people in psychosis, right? Revelation of like the abuse probably from in asylums, insane asylums, or like we'll be able to differentiate between those who are actually crazy and those who actually have gifts. But there'll be also begging and beggars and wailing and crying, feelings of like being cursed and all that stuff because of the change and the shift that's happening. Purging is happening, right? Things like sexual abuse, prostitutions will come through even more. Okay, when I say even more, as in even more. Okay. Exploitation, the corruptions of transactional relationships. Fallacies, all that stuff. Breach of contracts, all that stuff. Contracts themselves, like the corruption behind that. Sting operations is part of this one as well. Imprisonment, confinement, solitary confinement. Marriage will probably be part of this as well. Or like bride marriage, like what do you call that? Stealing of the bride or something like that. That's going to change. Forms of marriages will change, that's for sure. There'll be issues or things related to, like, again, rape, abductions, victims, specifically young girls. Okay, twins is also part of this one. This is coming up again. That's interesting. This also includes things about spamming, that'll come to the forefront. Things that are breaches or ripped fabric, I don't know, that's not really part of this one. Oh, people experiencing probably the cuts again because of the wars, tearing, because of the fighting, but people will start to realize, like, why are you fighting? Right? So you'll probably see anything from axes, torches, blades, knives. I'm not saying that's, but it's there. There'll also be like roadblocks. Again, there's delay stuff as well. Roadblocks, planning and plans, restructuring for sure. Maybe not necessarily creating new like structures and new infrastructures, but more like going around it, right? Because Cassandra is also about detours. Okay. Victims, of course, praise. Victims of abuse will be part of this one. Prisoners of wars. I'm not sure what that has to do with that. Prisoners of war. So, and then there's also Isis. Isis is basically like this sort of like, I don't know, this devotional love, yes, but it's like she's kind of like there to show. It's kind of like Neptune where it meets Venus, where it's like unconditional, but through having to know your inner power through like manipulation of and through like magical powers. When I say magic, I don't necessarily mean magic. I mean like the reuse of wisdom. That's what that's what it is. But it's also like being able to have expression of that power through love itself. She's also about resurrection. She's also about progenies and protection. So children is part of this. You see that? There's children here as well. So protection, maternal figures, maternal devotion. Again, going back to the whole thing, it goes the rape victims as well. It's coming up as well. Pregnancies, I don't know. So new births will come through as well. And it's funny because it ties in Isis and Osiris right here. Wonderful, because it's like this combination of like this death and then rebirth as well. She's also about funerals. So again, she's also about something about life cycles. So there's a new life cycle happening. Resuscitation is probably also part of that because of the defibrillators here. Ties into Osiris, of course. But she's also about DNA and RNA. So there's that whole, our DNAs will be changing. Okay. Something about, let's see here, things that are imbued with power, or rather things that imbue power, like flowers, butterflies, lions, mandalas, thunderbolts, spirals. I'm not sure how that ties in with this one. So things that give us a sense of power. It's like it's an inner thing. It's an inside thing. Renewable energy is part of this one. So that will be part of this. This is a big one. Power generation. This ties into Pluto, right? Solar panels, probably. Wind turbines, hydroelectricity, dams. Okay, so there's that whole, apparently, I was watching a video who said that with Mia Magic, she said that dams need to bring down. So this will be breaking down of those as well. I believe it's starting to. With the breaking down of dams, reservoirs, making it more natural. Okay. Shishi Odoshi. I forgot what that is. It's a type of device. I'm not sure. Geothermal generators, steam engines, nuclear power plants will have to change as well. It also includes energy boosting foods, so anything that gives us power and energy. That could be anything, really. So within square is actually square Dejanira and Perdix, but Dejanira and Perdix are retrograde, so that means it's going to be a lot of the technical stuff that can happen in the background. It's quiet in small little communities. People with gifts are going to see this, like Quintal engineers will be part of this. Science and technology will definitely advance, but it's in the little pockets in the world. Once Perdix exits retrograde and when it goes direct, that's when it's going to be like, but I don't know if Perdix will be square. So in this case, because of the retrograde, there will be issues regarding scientific technological advancements, but also that includes what do you call this? A disempowerment as well. The probably the old systems of like gender stereotypes, because she represents like the demure, so like, the weak kind of, that kind of stuff. So very complete polarity of the male, the divine feminine and divine masculine. She's like not even that. So she kind of represents like gullibility as well. So blind faith. She's kind of being pretty much like Neptune. Manipulation, right? The perfect lover, the Mr. Right, the perfect guy. She'll be there to, because it's in retrograde, again, there are people who will feel like, there'll be people who kind of like want to pull back into, like, but I want to be weak. I want to be this kind of like, not owning my own power. So there will be people who feel disempowered. There possibly will be also like involuntary manslaughter and accidental killing. And I'm not trying to be negative here. I'm just trying to say that, because it's in retrograde, there's a chance that people will experience that in like little small pockets of the world. But it also is, how do you call this? She's like the art of war. I see her as like the art of war, meaning like it doesn't always have to be direct. In fact, it's not even about fighting. It's literally about how to use the power and the gifts of manipulation so that you can so-called win. But it's not just win, but it's like win-win. But she's really about like a lot of it is like accidental. So it's meaning that there will be mistakes. There will be like tragic mistakes or like, those kind of things. But yeah, a lot of it is tied to marriage. A lot of it is tied to love, or I don't know, the institution of marriage. This will be the one that's going to be continuously like, right? Funeral pyres again, right here, ties in with Hercules. Again, goes back to the whole sword thing. There'll be part of that as well. But this will, I don't know. Yeah. Strangulation is included here as well. So I'm not sure if hanging, suicides were part of this one. People might start to experience like toxicity in the blood, like blood-related infections, because of the purging that's happening. Toxicity meaning like, in this case, what we've been consuming our whole lives. And science is coming through here, but it's in the little things, little pockets of the world. People will be like, I feel so good, because now there's this desire for something healthier, so something that's actually more wholesome, real, natural. Right? So the Janira is like that. She represents the toxicity that we acquire by not being conscious. She represents the unconscious behavior of like, oops. She literally represents mistakes. Right? And ties in a lot with the fighting that might happen and the abuse that we're probably going to see. You see that Sethos is right there. Sethos represents paternal abuse, just like, well, it's betrayal, really. But what happens with Sethos is that he's trying to find balances and integration. He's kind of like Chiron with Pluto and Osiris, or Chiron with Osiris, right? So Sethos here is about showing us the shadow of the past. Are you playing the role of the villain or the hero, or rather the victim or the empowered? Right? So he represents the dark night of the soul, the hero or villain's journey. Okay, favoritism. Because we're talking about how it's tied to De Janeiro, that stuff. It's about how we can discover like our own, what do you call this? The technicalities of the technicalities of our own, like, what is, why are we in this like connection with people? Why are we in this relationship? Why are we connecting with people this way? How do we? I mean, it's tied to Taurus. That's a lot of it is like tied to pleasure, right? Tied to entertainment, tied to farming, tied to the simple things in life. So with Sethos there, square, it's this feeling of like maybe betrayal of the systems, or at least we probably have caused that. Instead of pointing fingers as you betrayed me, da da da, but it says like, well, what did I do as well, right? So a lot of it is vagueness as well. Manipulation is here. So it's a lot of people will start to feel like they're trying to get rid of the external, but we're actually retaining the internal. So we think that we'll solve problems by doing things on the outside, but really is on the inside, right? So a lot of ego resistance, right? It's like, I'm right, you're wrong, fuck you, right? There's also like royal decrees or rule of law, judging, condoning, controlling, repelling, disorder, fears, partiality or impartiality, territorial disputes, hostile takeovers, invasions, civil wars, xenophobia, violence, combats, battles, fights, wars, competitions, those kind of things. This also will include deserts and droughts, storms, starvation, hunger, of course attempted murder. That kind of ties in with the Dejanira thing, but it's not attempted, but it's like, yeah. Sorry to say this, but body mutilations, okay, because that's what he did to his brother. He cut his body into pieces. So I'm not saying that that's what will happen, but it could be like mutilation of respect, mutilation of connections, maybe like an effort to what do you call this? Separate yourself from the truth. That it's like what you see in others can also exist in yourself. But how do you heal that? How do you heal the separation? How do you heal the whole like, well, I don't want this person in my life. So people try like the whole cutting cord thing, but what's happening really is they're not really forgiving. So that's the whole thing, right? The key to Sethos is the truth, bringing out absolute truth, and learning to accept that any part of a person that you disowned in yourself is actually part of yourself. We are all one, and every person is a mirror unto ourselves. So when we resist that, we're thinking we should fix the mirror rather than what's here. So, yeah. So a lot of things with the five senses as well is going to probably be included in here. People trying to come to terms with the gifts that are coming up. Zethos here is opposite Pluto, and Isis, Cronus, Osiris, Cassandra, Tyr, Heracles, and Child as well. I forgot to mention Child is here. I didn't write it down. But yeah, right? And there'll be like justice, things related to justice. Sexual encounters will probably be included in this one as well. Again, with the whole Dejanira thing. The judicial system, social and legal interrelational corruption, social systems, rulings, judges and judge system, governments, royalty is probably also in here. So again, it goes back to the same theme. So when I said earlier about sexual interactions or encounters, it could just be like the truth coming out. It's like, why do we have those things, right? The more we resist these things, this is very heavy stuff, like extremely heavy stuff, like incest, for example. Like, come on, right? So these are the truth. Like, a lot of people are like saying it's a hard pill to swallow. Oh, but take it from me, like I'm used to all that toxicity. So, but on an actual physical level, that's also probably includes like semen, reproductive fluids, testicles, toxicity, like I said, your poison, venom. Those are the things that might happen. It could be on an energetic level, it could be on a physical level. Again, maybe the throwing up of things, or like detoxing, like Dejanira is a toxin, right? So Pluto is there to bring it out, right? Really bring out the truth, not for us to like keep it inside and bottled inside. Ostracism and seclusion, isolation might be included in this one as well. Okay. Spartacus was part of this one as well. He's about justice. He's kind of like Uranus, but he's really more about the freedom itself. Being able to help people, being resourceful, being strategic and tactical, working with trauma, right? So it says empowerment through and from trauma, a traumatic experience. Charismatic people might come through. sense of individualism with collectivism. Okay, this is where it's now merging together. Opportunities, being an opportunist, patience and tenacity ties in with the Heracles placement. Okay, powerful justice, survival, hidden mysteries and prowess and gifts, risk-taking, perseverance, to the last drop, literally. So a lot of strength that we'll find. Anti-slavery, anti-oppression, anti-suppression, anti-system, anti-authority, altruism. This is really what he is, right? Potential for center of gossip or rumors is also here. Judged, being judged by systems or groups. Kind of ties in with the Sethos and the ostracism and isolation, because people might feel like, he's also about the underdog. Okay, so this is where this whole Aquarian age is coming through. It's like the respect for the underdog as part of the collective, the different people, the crazy prophet on the street, the weirdos, the psychos, so to speak. But nomadic lifestyles will be coming through as well. Off-grid systems, off-grid beliefs as well. Deserters probably included in here. So to hear abandoning or relinquishing toxicity and corruption for truth and what feels intrinsically and resonatingly natural. Good. See the theme? Going back into this probably will include proletariatism. Literally like more like knowing, understanding, and accepting of human rights, what that means. Left-wing ideologies, projected impoverishness and oppressedness, revolutionaries and revolutionists. Ability to manifest humanitarian ideals into reality. That's what it is. It's a strong placement, I think. Asmodeus here is like this crazy trickster, a demon. A lot of stuff related to wrath, anger, vengeance, punishment, control, seduction, sexual attraction, outer beauty, repressed, suppressed sexuality, sexual predation. That comes in with the whole asteroid child. So again, it's interesting. Like, it's a lot of dark stuff, right? It's your dark side as well, right? So I'm smiling because it's like a lot of humans are like, what's that? It's still today, but that will come through, right? It's bringing the unconscious to the conscious as well, light to dark, light to dark and dark to light. Kind of like figure out, it's like, what is the role of darkness, right? People are afraid of the darkness, right? But really, what it is people are afraid of the light. And what that means is people are afraid of their wholeness and acceptance of the darkness. It's not the duality, polarity things that will work anymore. People will be like, they'll just be yap, right? So, but Asmodeus says, I have this in my chart, and it's like in my first house, it's just like, yep. Apparently, like I can bring that out of people. Although sometimes it comes off very strong. So anyways, so again, corruption, basically, it's like bringing out the truth, but also represents like things in boxes of containment because of the suppression and repression. Ties in exactly with what we've been saying. A lot of weird things like sideshow oddities, freaks, right? The inner freaks, circus freaks, extrasensory abilities. That's the one. That's a good one. Sexual promiscuity, marriage or unions based on carnal desires and lusts. Sexual unions, copulation, hot male models. Okay, sexual predators. Physical transformation, or multiple or varying deformities, limping and limps, and handicapped or disabled, crutches. Those things will be coming through. The myth tied to Sedna with the whole mythology in the past, where there's half man, half beast sort of creation like ancient Egypt. Those will bring us knowledge into like what that was as well, like even more. Prisons are included in here, incarcerations. Okay, things of 7. 7 will pop up as well. So there's a 7, 912. The sense of understanding of immortality. Immortality as in our true essence, right? And again, you know Mars. Mars is all about war and accidents and battles and fighting and actually initiative. Minerva here is going to bring in that wisdom and creative intelligence to how that can be. There are people who play favoritism, who will play favorites, manipulation, of course, pointing fingers. One man's trash is another man's treasure. So it's looking at the gifts of things and sort of like being creative. Like, what does that mean? It's not just like, because Minerva was the Roman equivalent of Athena, but she's not just about wisdom. She's about really more about the creativity of things and working with logic and trying to be creative, which ties in a lot with the Aquarian energy. It's still kind of creative because it's linked to Leo, which is the opposite sign, but there's that thing, they're connected. When I say creative, I mean, like in this case, innovation, right? So again, it goes back to these talents, innovation, inventions. But she also rules commerce. She also rules athletes, athleticism, sports, natural abilities, of course, poetry, arts, medicine, natural phenomena, business and wealth opportunities, doctrine and indoctrination. That's, of course, that's the one that's still coming up, right? You'll see that. Petrification or dirty work and corruption, hired guns and assassins, rivers and streams, diversions. Rivers and streams, that's the one that ties in with Sedna, but also like the, who was that with dams? Was it Dejanira? I think it was dams, yeah. Or was it, I'm trying to remember. ISIS, I totally forgot what it was. Yeah. Anyways, so there'll also be this feeling of like this need to win. So like things that relate to strategy and tactic in order to win. So like a lot of it's like award. Maybe awards will be part of this, like reward systems, or this feeling like I need to win, I need to get recognition. So again, there'll be like this, I feel like this sort of, there are people who would be like, I need recognition rather than recognizing that power within. Water cycle is a part of this as well. Rivers, streams. Okay, so it still goes back to the same thing we've been talking about. Okay. And then Varuna is about bridges, about cohesion. This is part of that as well. Here we have also nature of Atira. Atira is like natural food, natural way of eating. Sphinx is understanding what that means in terms of like, you can say solving the problem, like understanding where we're coming from, where we're headed. But it also refers to mercilessness, but it's also either you're merciless or you're forgiving. But in this case, it's more about mercilessness, like, people probably realizing it's like sometimes you have to, but there also be the old systems who probably feel like they want to subdue things because it's like, I'm afraid of change. So there's like, issues about megalomania, like, I'm better than you, I'm more sovereign, I have these powers, and I have all the money, like, I'm rich, yada yada yada. But it's not about any of those things, it's more than that. And Sphinx represents a black or white. Complete, like, opposites. So it represents duality, basically. Kind of like that. So basically extremes and, like, kind of what is right or what is wrong. Again, it's duality, right? Enforcement of any kind. So the school systems might be affected in here because of tests and exams. We're talking also any school system, all the way from primary school all the way to secondary, post-secondary. It also represents guards, bodyguards, security guards. Of course, it's the Sphinx, right? So it's all about standing your ground as well. It also represents raw minerals and crystals, mining, quarrying, architecture, stonemasonry, stonemasons, building. So either basically I would say that the breaking down of it. I mean, we have it in Scorpio, so that's ruled by Pluto. So naturally there will be this breaking down for the sake of our evolution, right? So that makes sense. And we'll also be able to regenerate and move past that. We have Haumea here conjunct Sphinx. We have the ability to regain our own fertility, our sense of fertility, our sense of ability to grow and heal. Right? It's a liberating power. So it's a Gaia energy. It's a Gaia power. Listening to Gaia, listening to nature, regrowth, recreation, nourishment, life-giving energy, right? And how that ties in with Sphinx in the Tira here, it's like that whole like restructuring of what was made traditional, which is like holding things in, restrictions and control, into release. And Lamea here will actually be like that, kind of like a trigger of like abuse and loss, and try to heal from it and really regenerate and say like, you didn't lose anything, you were just transmuted. But Lamea is this sort of complete dissatisfactional energy, right? She's like, I want to gain, I want to. She's like a succubus. So she represents what we completely lost and wound, like what we're wounded by and trauma. It's the mother trauma, the womb trauma of losing children, losing your sense of purpose, you losing your sense of direction. Astrea is a sense of responsibility towards your parents or your society, your group that you're in, and kind of trying to figure out your sense of sovereignty and independence, but at the same time still working with society, right? So either you're incapacitated or you're liberated, right? It's a return to love, escaping chaos, right? She also represents, of course, this corruption as well. So utopia and utopian views, idealism, regulations, morality. Okay, so the judicial systems will be part of this as well. But lush vegetations and gardens, so that ties in with Atira as well, and Haumea. The yin and yang. Permaculture is part of this one as well. Ecosystem, balance or imbalance ecosystem. So that's what will be coming up. Again, Pluto will be the leader here. He'll be like going, this is what's happening. And we're going to bring out the toxics from that, and we're going to clean it as much as we can. In fact, it'll be completely like that. It'll continue and continue. That's Pluto. Pluto is like the eternal cleaner. He's like, it's, I don't know how to describe it. It's like more than just like you're cleaning. It's toxicity so that you become detoxic. And Cerberus here is a sense of responsibility, sense of like guardianship, sense of like everything is my fault. Like kind of like this feeling of like blame, but learning also of our own toxicity and what is poisonous to our society, because he's also about vomiting. So we will regurgitate, we'll vomit all that out. There'll be a lot of issues like with the jaw. Things people, if you have Cerberus, it's something to do with the jaw, but it's tied to Scorpio. So all these are tied to Scorpio. So Scorpio rules like the underbelly of things, like the reproductive system, but also down there with the excretional, like your ass, basically, shitting it out. And there'll be like this push for lust, for change. When I say lust, I mean like this desire, this strong desire for that. Alcesti here is, I'm trying to remember Alcesti. She represents commitment to that, the loyalty, but also going back to that gratitude of like, oh, there's a gift behind all this, right? And so there'll be like this removal from yourself from the things that are so beautiful, because she represents beauty and attraction and love interest and damsel in distress. Like it's almost like someone needs to be saved, but she in this case, because she's in Scorpio, it's like this re-empowerment of like, I can find the love in myself while you find your love in yourself, so that we share with each other our lives rather than trying to complete each other. We've heard of this before, again and again and again, but it's like telling it into ourselves and learning it from our minds and all that stuff. Information is not enough. Information is, what did Mia Magic say? Her word, I loved her word. She said, information is conceptual, wisdom is embodied. Okay, those are her words, but yes, what it means. Basically, you gotta experience it. You gotta die, right? Alcesti is also represents the back. Speaking of death, right? She's the one that's back from the dead, right? So loyalty beyond death, loyalty beyond like the form and body. So she represents that purity that's in like the commitment to understanding. It's like, I've already committed to this. Okay. Because if we're not committed to something, we're breaking our oaths. And it's funny because we mentioned oaths here. she's basically, she's also oaths, but she's also related to, who was this says about oaths? I forgot what it was. One of them was oaths. Was it Osiris or Tyr? Anyways, it's tied to that, right? So when we break our oaths or our promise, it's like, what is that, right? There's a difference between being passive and being, what do you call this? There's a difference between being soft and being passive. Soft doesn't necessarily mean passive. Soft just means gentle. It's full of love. So Alkesi represents that. She is passive, but she doesn't necessarily mean that she's like, I'm going to let you step all over me. Meaning me as in like the disempowered you, the disconnected you, the separated you. That's just like giving up power. No, right? When we react, when we give over our power, when we all do all that stuff, yeah, that's giving up power. That's disempowering. That's when we become the succubus, going back to the Lamia energy. Now I wanted to add a bit of stuff here as well. There's a bunch of more stuff here. I'm just going with like what's going to flow more. I'm going to make it more general here this time. I feel like this one has a lot to do with the abundance we're experiencing through the industries. It'll be part of the industry. Like you have Taiki, Arachne here, Angel, Amalthea industry, Trine Pluto, and Pluto Trine, Electos, Hephaestus, Sedna, Hero, Daphne, Nerthus. Nerthus, we're going to skip Nerthus because I don't have anything on that yet. But basically what I'm seeing here is working through our inner shadow of like, if someone has this, whether it's knowledge or this experience, and we don't have it, like resentment that builds up, and in terms of, and also like our, I guess, the betrayal we experience from abandonment from family, what do you call this, disowning and abuse, and control and manipulation, and all the trauma you can think of, and a lot of the anger that comes through with it. Alecto is wrath, right? So when we find ourselves going through this, Pluto is there to cleanse that, but we're naturally be able to cleanse that, be able to work through the wrath inside. It is retrograde. All these planets right here is retrograde. Uranus is also part of this one, so it'll be just internalized changes that will happen inside. Detoxification, surrender, especially through the nervous system, because this is also the nervous system. This is Uranus, and because it's Gemini, it's ruled the senses right here, also the hands as well, I believe. Yeah, so the nervous system, the sight, visions, and the senses. But this also ties in with Taurus as well. He's also senses, but he's more about the five senses, like taste, specifically taste and sight, because about like things that are pleasurable. Tied in with Gemini, which is like about the vision and sight and our senses. So it's really about the senses and our perception of things, but internalizing what we've learned and what we've sensed and what we've, I guess, made subconscious. Pluto is there to really like fucking clean that, right? And we have guidance here as well to be able to see through things, but also stand our ground and find the gift within, the abundance that comes from within. If we work at it, we'll start anew, and we'll start anew from this feeling of like being like disempowered and bullied. That's Toro. Eos is new beginnings, and trying to determine what that means for us. Quetzalcoatl here is what I put in here is conscious intoxication, so the choice to be unconscious versus subconscious detoxification. There's potential for cleaning when we tap into the subconscious, inner child trauma and past life trauma, ancestral trauma, whatever you want to call the beliefs that we've gone into, the beliefs right here, you have right here Neptune, right? Neptune is the disillusionment, the illusions, and the toxicity or the infections we get. Neptune rules infections. So when we work through that stuff, it's that time to change. So you get the point. Basically, that's the main point of the whole thing. So it's time to grow. So I didn't really show the chart, but that's fine. So you get the point. So if you have any comments, that's a long ass video, of course, but that's what it is. I go really deep. I didn't really go that deep, to be honest, because I didn't go through the chart with the second chart. I didn't go through my cheat sheet through my cheat sheet with the second chart. So that's totally fine. Thank you for watching, guys. I will see you later. Bye.